Hello again. Hope you liked the last few videos about the misfire I had on the 64 Beetle that's behind me. But now it's time to get back to the Karmann Ghia engine build. I have a few things in front of me here where I'm planning to get started with the rebuild, and some of the things I thought I would show you that helped me with the engine build on this car that's behind me. So a couple of things is I used this book, How to Rebuild Your Volkswagen Air-Cooled Engine. This came in really handy. It has lots of handy tips and I followed it all the way through. It's American publication, I think, yeah, from US. So I had to convert a lot of the stuff into metric, but that's no problem with the internet, obviously. There's lots of conversion tables and stuff like that. So this was really handy, very handy. Also, some of my friends were very helpful, and I thank them again for giving me advice and putting up with my plentiful texts. And also, I have this book that was given to me, and it's actually in Finnish, but it has like the tolerances. Because obviously over time something like the crank, because it's spinning constantly when your engine is running, everything can wear down. So they have a tolerance. Once they wear too much, they're pretty much junk and you have to replace them. And also, if it's out of tolerance, they can be taken to the machine shop and they can reface them, grind them down, and then you have to have oversized bearings to compensate for the material that has been removed. So, as I said I believe in the first video, I bought this engine from a good friend of mine, and he had already measured everything. Everything's within tolerance, so hopefully, and he also ordered all the bearings. So all the bearings that he's ordered has compensated for the wear of the original engine. This does actually have, I don't know if you can see it, but on the engine block you can see that the original number on this engine has been ground off by Volkswagen themselves, and there's like an indentation, and this is a telltale sign that this engine has been rebuilt sometime in its life officially by Volkswagen, because it even has a Volkswagen stamp on there with a new engine number. So this engine has already been rebuilt sometime in its life, and like I say, everything should be in tolerances. I might measure a few things just for the sake of the video and show you what I mean by the chart in here if I can find it, because my Finnish isn't very good. But yeah, that's just a few things. But you're probably wondering why I have a camping stove and some vegetable oil. Well, inside this box, there's this gear. And this gear connects to the camshaft. So it goes on the end of the crank, on this side, sorry, which then connects to this when they're seated in the engine and they spin together. So this gear here is what they call an interference fit, which means you can't just slide it on, you have to heat it up. So obviously when you heat this up, it expands, and then you can just slide it onto the crank, it cools down, and then it's a really nice tight fit. It also has a keyway there, so it can't spin round on the shaft. So that is why I have this cooking stove, camping cooking stove, because in this book, this is where I got this from, and it worked fine when I did it on the other engine, is that you heat up the oil until it's smoking. Well, not smoking, but you can see vapor coming off, I guess, and it smells a bit like a fish and chip shop. And then you obviously put this in the hot oil, so when it starts to smoke, you remove it and then you slide it onto the shaft. So I have the flywheel here, and the reason I have this here is because, oops, it's a lot easier for manoeuvring if you put this on here. There's little dowel pins in here, so it needs to line up. There you go. And I'll put the nut on the end to stop it falling over. But this is a good base for you to work on the crank when you're putting the gear on. Where's the gear? Here. So you need to put one of the bearings on first, and then you slide this over the top. So what I shall do is I'll maybe go and get some tools so I can measure this, and then I'll heat the oil up. I'll clean this up first because it needs a bit of a clean, and then I'll slide this on. Off camera I just gave this a little bit of a clean up. I cut strips of this, is it called Scotch-Brite pad, cut into strip and then use it like this to clean up. They were really pretty much clean anyway, but just if there was any other bits off, but they look really good now. Also, I use a little bit of brake cleaner and some wet and dry, very fine sandpaper just to clean up the surfaces, and also a brush to clean inside the teeth. And also these are very good for cleaning out the oil ways in the crank. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there's holes inside the crank where the bearings fix onto. So these connect with each other through holes where the oil gets pumped through. So these are really good, these pipe cleaners, to clean inside there. Take your time when you're cleaning everything because there's no rush and everything has to be really nice and clean. You know, you don't want any dirt or debris in that could clog up the oil ways or get in between the bearings, and it just leads to premature wear. So giving it a good clean up is good practice. So I also went and got this micrometer. So with one of these you can measure very, very accurately. So I'll do a few measurements on this and see what it comes up with in the book. Right, in the book, here you can see is the crankshaft specifications. So here we have main bearing journals, rod bearing journal, has the diameter. This is in focus. This is in inches and this is in millimeters, as you can see there. So it has to be within specification is 54.97 and 54.99. So it's pretty close, huh? So I just measured it with this. So this basically goes on here, and you wind this in, and this little bit on the end clicks when it gets to just the right amount of pressure, because obviously you don't want to wind it in. This is a precision tool, so you have to be really careful with these. So you basically wind this in until it clicks, and then it has a little lock-in toggle thing there. So then you make sure that it's nice and snug. And then as I read this, I believe it is 54.7. It says 0.2 there, but when you unwind it, one rotation of this is 0.5. So it's 0.5 plus 2, so 54.7. Whoa, 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 back up. What say you, Dusty boy? This is Dusty, by the way. He's my little darling doggy. Anyway, after that last clip that I just you were just watching, the measurement wasn't within the tolerance that was in the book. So I also this is 2 days after, by the way, if that makes any difference. But I had to do a little research. Also, I checked in this book and I found the pretty much the same measurements as was in the other book that I showed you. But after doing a little research, those measurements are not actually wear limits, apparently. And the wear limit, I'll try and put a picture up on this video, but the wear limit was 0.19 from the factory diameter, from new. So after doing those calculations, it is within the wear tolerance. So that's fantastic, because I was a little bit stumped as I thought the crank might be too worn. But anyway, I've just skipped ahead a little bit, and I will then go back to where I was. Okay. So in the book, they recommend using white grease to lubricate the bearings. I'm aware that a lot of people use engine oil, which obviously is fine, because that's what the engine is obviously lubricated with when it's running. But the problem that they say in the book with using engine oil is that it's so thin that it can leak out. So at the end of or by the time you've finished building the engine and it's time for its first startup, a lot of that oil has drained away from in between the bearings, so it's not so lubricated for the first startup. So I've done what the book has said and put the white grease between there, and also noted the orientation of the bearing, so the dowel locating dot is facing towards the flywheel. So I've got my camping stove set up. I'll start heating the oil and warm up this gear. Also, there is a orientation, of this gear, because you can see it has these two dots, and those two dots line up with this dot on the camshaft. So when it's in the engine, that dot will go between these two dots. I'll show you in a later video better. So this has to go around. You see that chamfer on the gear? So that goes down, and the dots are facing upwards when you put it on here. I also need to put this key in and make sure it fits on there. So I'll do that now while I'm heating up the oil. Right, this is the Woodruff key. I've just cleaned it up and it's ready to go in. You just want to tap it with a hammer, ball peen hammer, and you tap it in until the note changes. You'll know when it's seated properly, and it's really important that it is seated properly, because otherwise your gear won't slip over there. So I'm just going to tap that in, and I also have these ready to pick this up out the boiling hot oil, and I'll also get some welding gloves so I don't burn my hand when I push it on. You can already see it starting to bubble a bit there, so I don't think it's going to be too much longer, and it'll be ready to... Right, sorry about the noise, I've got the extractor on, so probably can't see me either. So I've put the Woodruff key in, it's tapped home, I've got my grips ready, it's smoking, so I've got the orientation of the gear right, so now hopefully if I slip it on, it'll go all the way down. Let's do it. Get some of the oil off, flip it on, line it up. Magic. Right, just let that cool down now. I'll get rid of the oil, and then it's on to the next stage. Right, this actually happened off camera because I thought I'd pushed record but obviously hadn't. So while it was off camera, this is the gear that you saw me heat up and slide on. And then there is a spacer. It's like a big, it's not a circlip, but it's like, well, it's a spacer with a split in that fits over the Woodruff key. And then this is the worm gear. It's a brass worm gear that connects to the shaft that drives the distributor. So this is on here when it's on the engine. When the crank rotates, it rotates this and rotates your distributor. So that's what that's for. So the next thing to go on is actually a circlip, which should be, yeah, here. So now I need to go get some circlip pliers. I'll clean this up first, slide it on, and then that locks all of those together. Here I have is some special circlip pliers that have this like indentation which fits into there and then expands it so you can slide it on there. I'll move the camera. Yes. Okay, so that's now in place and it's in its groove. Just to make sure that it's in its place, I use this like blunted chisel and I just gently tap on the top run there, and then you can see by moving it like that it's actually locked in there. So just take your time and double check everything, but so it's all on there. I moved on to page 116. This is the engine assembly. I'm not ready to assemble the engine, but I just want to check that just the crank rotates inside the case, or one half of the case, and to show you on the video. So these are the dowels. I don't know if you can see that. These are the dowels. I need to clean these up, obviously. There's a little bit of surface rust on there, but I'll clean these up. So these dowels are what fit here in these holes. So they slide in there and they just poke out, and that stops the bearing from rotating inside the case. So this smaller bearing goes on the end here, and again the rotation for where the pin goes. So I can't get that out now, but I guess that goes that way around. So this goes this way round on here. So I'll put some white grease on there and slip that on there. Okay, so I just removed the crank. All I've done off a camera is I cleaned this edge up a little bit better, and all I used was wire brush on the drill. Just go really gently, don't go too crazy. And you can see one of the things in the book that it says you shouldn't do is try and prise the the case apart using a chisel or a screwdriver. I'm not sure if you can see, yeah, here. You should actually knock these tabs with like a nylon mallet or something like that when you're trying to split the case before rebuilding. But I think it was probably really stuck and somebody's had a bit more of a go there. But as long as these inner surfaces are not damaged, you're still going to get a good sear. But anyway, so we have the 3 main bearings, 1, 2 and 3. I'm not sure if it's 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. That's definitely 2. And all I've done, as you can see, I've put these little pins in, these dowel pins that I mentioned in an earlier video, and I've just popped this bearing shell in here, and it's just a push fit. Don't put any grease on the back side of these bearings, because you obviously don't want them to spin, and they shouldn't spin if you have the dowels in. But anyway, you don't need to lubricate. And like I said in an earlier video, I'm using white grease, which was recommended in the book. Okay, so here is the crank. And I actually, because in the last video it came out as, was it 54.7 with this. So I double checked, as recommended by my friend who I bought this engine from, is to calibrate it or to check that it's in tolerance with this. So you basically put that in here, you wind it in, and it tells you if it's exactly, this is 5, yep, 5. So when you wind this in, it should stop exactly on the 0, and it did. So the measuring was fine. It's just that that tolerance that's in the book is for machining, apparently. And the wear tolerance, like I said, is 0.19. So it was within tolerance. So I can go ahead and use this crank. So yeah, in the last video you saw me add this bearing and these 2 gears with the spacer in. There's another one, which is the smaller one that goes on the top, which is in this box somewhere. There it is. So that goes on the end, and it goes around a specific way with the dowel. And so, and also I've just slipped the bearing on the back here. So I'll just pop this back into the engine case half. So this has a orientation, because this has to locate on that dowel. So what I don't remember if I got this tip from the book or where I got it, but you basically spin this around and it should locate. Wait, that's there. Okay, so it needs to go. There you go. It just kind of clicks into place, and then you have to do the same. Oh, that just went in. Same with the top one. So what I normally do now is I get like a Sharpie or permanent marker, and I actually mark on the bearing with the marker, because you're likely to have to take this in and out, because obviously we haven't put the con rods on or anything like that. So for reference, I mark this with a Sharpie, these 2, so and this one when it's on, so you know, like the location of where it should locate on the dowel pins. I just wanted to put this in here partly to show on the camera, like the orientation and stuff like that. And you can see on the end of this bearing, because it has like this shoulder, it actually, like, I don't know, clicks over the edge of the case. Okay, so what's next? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bearing on, and there is also, which should be here, you also have to put this on the end of this shaft here. I can't remember which way around, I think it's that way, but I'll double check in the book. You put that on, and there is another Woodruff key there, and that's for your the pulley for your fan belt. So that then slides over that, and it also stops this from sliding off once it's on there. So I'm going to do that next. Right. Okay, so with the Sharpie, I just mark like this onto the bearing, like that, and then on this one as well. There it is, like that. Easy. So at least you have some references to where it should go. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So you can quite easily see you have your 3 main bearings, which get clamped together by the second half of the case, and then the 4 other journals you have here are for your 4 con rods, which your pistons attached to. So everything fits, which is good. It's a good start. So I guess it's on to the next stage. I can't remember what this little thing here is on this bearing, but I will find out. Yeah, it looks good. Okay. Right, I can demonstrate on this second half of the case. So there is my dowel, and this bearing half goes on the number 2. So you have the 1, 2 and 3. So the dowel goes in there. And then you have this, so you have the location on here. So it's off-centered, so it's to the left like that. So you just slip that in there, and it should be a nice tight fit like that. Beautiful. Okay, and then a little bit of white grease, not too much, it says in the book, just enough, don't go crazy. And that's how you pop a bearing half in. Also, you can see there's another like dowel hole on this side, but I think I remember reading in the book, I can double check, that it's not needed. It's not an oil way, it's definitely like a dowel pin location thing, but as you can see on this bearing, there isn't a hole. So yeah, it's a little confusing why it's there. I'm probably on maybe some different style of bearings, I don't know. I'm not sure why you would need two, and I don't think you do, because obviously I'm not going to use it. So, but just in case you're wondering, that's that. Right. So this is it's like a splash guard, oil splash guard, that stops the oil coming out from the end of this engine, and this is where this pulley locates. And you can also see on there's like this groove, which also helps to keep the oil in the engine and stop it from leaking. So that just goes on that way round, like that. And then there's another Woodruff key that I need to hammer in there. So I'll just hammer that in, and that's that. So there it is in place with the key, and then this obviously slots over the top. It's quite a nice snug fit. So you just line that key up there and push it on, but I'm not going to put it on yet because it's not needed. That's like one of the last things you need to put on. So there it is, and that key stops this from falling off. I'll just demonstrate what I mean. So there's my Sharpie mark that I made. So to locate it in the right place, you see that? Just pops in. So you're not constantly spinning it, wondering where the location pin is. Okay, next up is the camshaft bearings. So you can see there's like, there is this one with the shoulder on it that goes on one of the ends. I can show you, it goes on this one nearest the oil pump. And if I remember, you have to check the lash on it, the movement it has. And you may, I think on the other engine that I built, I had to file a little bit off because it was pinching it or something, but I'll have to refer to the book again, but what the tolerance is, because I don't exactly remember. But yeah, so that one goes on the end with this shoulder, and then the others are just these halves. And here is the camshaft. So you can see here where the bearings go, and then here are the lobes that lift your valves up and down. Maybe I'll double check the sizes of them or the wear on them just for fun, just to because it's all learning, huh? I like to learn and understand exactly why I'm doing something. I don't want to just throw this together and then it works. And you know, it's only when you then have a problem, if you understand it, you can. It's easier to put it right. So yeah, I'm going to take these out and then just slip them onto the case, just to show you how the camshaft goes in there. But it's kind of self-explanatory. It's a bit like the main bearing, bearings, the main bearings. But there's also these little, how do you say, tang things that they locate into. There's one there. Yeah, and then there's one on the last one there as well. So it's kind of self-explanatory, and they should just be like a nice snug fit. They should just like pop in there, and then you can see that's where the oil comes through and it goes around there and then lubricates. Okay, it's a bit easier to show you on this half for the filming, but yeah, so it's the same as before. You don't lubricate the underside, and you can see there's a little tang there, and then you can see it there on the bearing. So that should, is that the right size? Yeah. So that should just nicely fit in there like that, and no overlap. Because obviously when the two halves of the case go together, it holds everything in place. So it's the same for this one. Oh, hold on, that goes the other way around, so that goes in here. That. Nice. Okay, this one's slightly wider than the others, look. So this one has the tang on the other side, so you can't really go wrong. So that one goes in there. I'm not sure why these are wider, like why are they not all the same? I don't know. Especially when you look on the camshaft, so you have that big wide surface there. But yeah, again, that just pops into there, and then you have this one with the shoulder, which I believe, like I said, goes on this side. Like that, yeah. But there's no tang on that, is there? I wonder why. But that fits in there quite snug. Yeah, so I see now when you put the camshaft in, if it doesn't have any, if it's really tight, there's no movement there, then you have to just sand gently a little bit off the side there, because there is some tolerance. It should have some movement, I think, probably for lubrication. So I guess that doesn't need a tang, because on this side, sorry, it's this one, isn't it? Okay, yeah, because that one does, so I guess it's not going to spin. Sorry, just mumbling here, trying to figure it out myself. All right, I'll put the other two bearing sides in, and then I'll trial fit the camshaft. On the gear for the cam, you can see there's a dot there on one of the teeth. So that has to locate between those two dots on that gear there. So if I just move this down a little bit, like that, and then I'll get my cam gear and place the dot between there. You see that? And then if I just roll that down like that, so now the cam is located in the bearings, and we will just double check that. Not sure if I can get it there on camera. Can you see? So that locates between the two, so the timing is correct. So what that means is that the valves will open and close at the right time with the rotation of the crank and the position of the pistons in the heads. So That's why it's really important to get that in the right place, otherwise the engine either won't run or will run really badly. So just checking, and this is, I'm not sure if there's any movement. There's a little bit, but I think I need to measure this bearing, what the tolerance is, so I need to refer to the book for that. Yeah, but also they say that when you rotate this, if this tries to crawl, like pop out of the bearings, then there's a meshing problem with these two gears, but that seems really good. So yeah, okay. Okay, I just realized that you have this one with the shoulders nearest the oil pump, and then the middle one is actually slightly wider than this end one. So actually when you remove it, you can see like the old marks on the case where the bearing used to be. So the wider one definitely goes in the middle, and then it's the same if I can pop this out like that. You can see like the original mark there. So they go this way round. So you have two, and then if you look on the other side of the case, you have the wider one in the middle, not so wide one on the end there, and then this matches the one with the shoulder, and that's how the bearings go on for the cam. I've just put the second half of the case on, and I'm just going to tighten these down, not to specification or anything, just to nip it down and make sure everything goes together. Well, you can see it's going together nicely there. So I'm just going to nip these up and make sure that the crank and the cam still spins. Make sure they spin freely, and then I'll take it apart again and we'll head on to the next stage. When I'm tightening this down, I'm not going crazy. There is a sequence that I'll cover later on, but I don't know if you can see. I'm just really gently tightening these two middle ones up, and you can see that the case is pulling together quite nicely. Then one of the side ones, so you can see that gap. I'm really not putting much pressure on there. Let's do this one and this one. So I'm just going to do these until the case like snugly comes together. Let's check this side. Yeah, that's come together nice as well. So just really, like I say, there is a sequence, an order that you have to tighten these up when you finally tighten it up for the last time. But I'll cover that when it is actually time to do so. Like I'm just nip them up like that. Okay. Put that down, and then let's see. This should, yeah, look at that. It's really nice. So now the two halves are clamped together. There's nothing like interfering and it spins really freely. It shouldn't be like so loose. There should be some resistance there, you know, because if it didn't have any tolerance, like if it was really worn out, it would just be sloppy and all over the place. So it needs to have some resistance so everything moves together nicely. But yeah, cool. Okay, that's it for today from me and Dusty. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it inspires you to do it yourself if you're thinking of doing it. It's again like a learning curve for me, so I've only done it once before, so it's, you know, I'm still learning how to do this. So that's kind of why I want to include any mistakes or problems that I have along the way. I want to keep these videos quite natural and honest, and yeah, so I will include anything like that, and I'll try and keep you updated as much as I can. I'll continue this during the week, so I'll try and update very soon. Okay, thanks again. Bye.